anyone been to a hotel room and had problems turning on the shower? Well, I have. Earlier this year, I was out in Vancouver, and I'd had a couple long flights by the time I got there, and I wanted to relax a little bit before going out for dinner, and so I went to go turn on the shower. And I was pulling and pushing on whatever was there, trying to turn on the shower. And I couldn't figure it out. Actually, this is what the shower looks like. It was about 2 minutes in before I realized that they actually had instructions on the shower. But I saw them, and I thought to myself, it's okay, I'm an engineer. I can figure this out on my own. And so I went on for another minute. I actually pulled something out that wasn't supposed to come out, and I put it back in, and then I decided to read the instructions. And so, step 1, turn the water on. No problem, it's been running for a couple minutes. Step 2, pull the tub spout in a downward motion to activate the shower spray. So I did that. I'm like pulling down on the thing, trying to turn it on. And then I realized, wait, at the very bottom, they have additional instructions. If you need extra help, call 0. So not only do they have written instructions for a shower, but they also have third-line support to turn on something as simple as a shower. And I thought to myself, there's no way I'm going to call 0. And so after another read-through of the instructions and looking at the diagram once again, I figured it out with a lot of laughs and giggles in there. But I thought to myself, had the shower designers thought about using design thinking, they might have foreseen that people would have had problems turning on the shower after a long flight or early in the morning. And so you guys are probably wondering, what is design thinking? And design thinking is actually understanding end users' needs and discovering their real problems. And so what does an end user mean? And so it could be anything like a client, a customer, or for those in government, citizens, whoever you're developing services for. And so we hear the word innovation and the fact that disruption is rampant everywhere. We have increased expectations. We want things faster. We want end-to-end experiences, and we want to feel special. And how do you do that? It's through understanding your end clients better. If you have complex problems like innovation, it's easier to simplify by understanding your end clients even better. And so 2 of my favorite parts of design thinking are the empathize, looking at things from an end user perspective, and reframing, reevaluating problems at a human level. So using empathizing and reframing together to be able to think about the problems from a different perspective. I don't know if you run into this in your work environment, but we're being asked to do more with less. And so how are we going to do that? And that's by making sure we're focusing on the right processes, the right policies, the right services, the right products that we're developing. And the best way to do that is by understanding our end clients better so that we can focus in on the right problems to solve for them. And design thinking is a huge part of this. Let me take you back a couple of years. One of my first jobs in my career was working for a global consumer manufacturer and marketer of home and personal care products. And they actually took a lot of care understanding who their end users were. They would go into people's homes and watch them clean. They would actually pay people to go into their homes and watch them clean. And so, as part of my job, at the time I was living with 5 other housemates, we actually had to test out toilet paper. And in exchange for that, we got lots of free toilet paper. The one thing that we had to tell them was, how do we use the toilet paper? Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean, how do we use the toilet paper? And so they said, well, do you fold it or do you scrunch it? I don't know. How many sheets do you use? I'm counting in my head. And then, what do you use it for? And how does it feel? And so if global manufacturers of consumer goods are paying that much attention to how people are using something like toilet paper, maybe we should be putting a little bit more emphasis on how our end clients are using our products, services, policies, or processes. So a lot of the time in our work environment, or at home, when we run into problems, a lot of people tend to jump to solutions without really pulling back and taking a look at what the actual challenge might be. And so sometimes, especially at work, we get an opportunity to pull back and think about what are the problems, what are the challenges we're trying to solve before we come up with ideas and solutions. And then some environments, we get a chance to prototype and test to see if it works or to see if our end clients like that. What if we brought in empathizing and we took a look at what people really truly want? How are they using our products and services right now before we understood what the challenges could be for them? And so if we were to bring it into our regular day processes, this is what it might look like, where we start out with empathizing, then defining the problem, ideating, and then prototyping and testing. And so it's all to be able to understand the end users so that we're solving the right problems. And it's kind of difficult because sometimes, like with a shower, we don't pay enough attention and think about the fact that we're actually developing services and products for real people. So one of the best ways to empathize is through something called personas. Personas basically group or characterize a group of people through the use of a person or a persona. And so, for example, think about the last time you were at a coffee shop. What were the different types of people that were in there? And so you might have seen people, maybe students, maybe folks that were in the construction industry, office workers, or senior citizens. And so personas help us understand that group better, their goals, their challenges, their fears, and also to be able to help guide our decisions along the way as we're thinking about products and services for that particular persona or that group. So if we take a look at the persona for a senior citizen in a coffee shop, we might characterize them as Ruth, and then provide a picture of Ruth, so that as we're making decisions about senior citizens for our services, we have Ruth in mind. What would Ruth want? And so we want to write down what her demographics are, and ideally we do that with that particular group there with us. And so senior citizens are usually over 65 years old, although what a senior citizen changes depending on who you are and what you're doing. She might want to have a friendly atmosphere to be able to get together with friends. She wants it clean, accessible, and close to home too, because she can't travel very far, she can't drive as much. And then we also want to note down things like the fact that she's on a fixed income. So her income's less than $50,000 a year, and she is married, she has children and grandchildren, but maybe they live far away, so she goes to the coffee shop for more company. That's a great, simple example, but what happens when we get into more complex environments, like, for example, the federal government? When you're in large groups with complex problems, what do? You need another tool for empathizing. Let's take a look at a particular problem with the community of federal regulators, CFR. They wanted to display regulatory guidance in the same way for all of their regulators. They wanted to showcase information in the same way for all of the departments. And so they had 5 workshops over 7 months with 174 participants, 18 departments and agencies, and 17 external organizations. Sounds complex, right? What we ended up doing there is doing the personas that everybody agreed on, and then we went to do empathy mapping. And empathy maps have what are people saying, doing, thinking, and feeling. And as we did the empathy maps, we found that there was a lot of commonalities, especially in the way that people were thinking and feeling. It was funny, actually, because some of the people in the sessions thought that it was more like group therapy. And so because of all these commonalities, we were able to simplify a complex problem into a more manageable challenge, so that we were actually able to solve it, and solve it quickly. how did we do that? Let me show you. We used empathy mapping. And it's really funny. This is one of the most impactful empathy tools that I know, but it's also the tool that most organizations try to skip out on and not do. And so with empathy maps, we take a look at what are people saying and what are people doing. And a lot of the time, it's actually quite different. And then what are people thinking and what are people feeling? And so if we take it back to our Ruth example, our senior citizen at the coffee shop, she's probably saying, she's talking to the cashier or the people around her about the weather. What's she doing? Well, when she's going to purchase her coffee, she's probably paying with cash. And then what's she thinking? She's probably wondering why Kathy, her favorite cashier, is not working on Tuesday. And what's she feeling? Probably happy, a sense of belonging and comfort because she's familiar with people there and she's going to be meeting friends. And so empathy mapping is great for figuring out what are the articulated needs and also what are the unarticulated needs. What are people thinking and feeling but not necessarily saying? Think about the last time someone asked you at work how you feel. Another tool that's had a positive impact in my life is reframing. A few years ago, a friend of mine called me up right before Thanksgiving, and she asked me if I wanted to go away for the Thanksgiving long weekend. And I know she likes to travel, so I thought maybe we'll go to New York or Chicago. And she asked me, do you want to go to Budapest? Yeah, I'm like, no. My automatic response is no. And I thought, okay, I need a reason. I need a reason to do something fun. And I thought, oh, it's going to be too expensive. And she told me, actually, I found a great flight, and the dates work really well for both of our schedules. And then I thought, oh, accommodations are probably going to be hard to find and expensive. She knows me really well, and so she said, no, it's okay, I found something on Airbnb. And she sent me the link, beautiful place, close to everything we wanted to go see. And I couldn't think of any other reasons not to go. I'd run out of excuses, and so finally I said no. No, sorry, I said yes. But I was trying to figure out why I was thinking no. It was because in my mind, I felt like a trip to Europe or overseas should be at least 10 days long. But then I thought, when was the last time I had 2 weeks off in a row? And so I had a friend help me reframe what travel was. And it wasn't about the travel itself, but the duration of the travel. And so if I didn't do this now, I wouldn't be able to do it at any point in my life. And so we went, and it was phenomenal. So reframing a lot is about thinking about what are some of the challenges and the way that you're feeling and thinking about problems. And empathy maps really help out in terms of figuring out what you should be focusing in on to be able to reframe. Reframing is happening all around us. Countries are reframing what residency means. This is Tallinn, Estonia, where they have virtual residency. And so that means that you can get a card with a chip mailed to you here in Canada, and you become a virtual resident, and that means you can do things like open up a business in Estonia, where there might be lower tax brackets. This is Portugal City in Portugal. They have something called participatory voting. That means that a portion of their budget is set aside for voters to be able to state how they want the budget to be spent. Pretty cool. And then, if you live in rural parts of Portugal, you can actually vote through an ATM machine. We're actually also reframing currencies around the world through things like cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin and Ether. And citizens are wanting to reframe what it means to be a citizen, as well as what we want from our governments. And we want impact and outcome rather than output. And so, how do we do that? It's through design thinking, with empathy, and reframing. So whether you're running a business or you're putting in place policies for government, design thinking is really important to be able to understand your problems, your citizens, and your end users even better. You might be running a business, you might be organizing an event, You might be trying to find a university for a child, or you might be doing career planning. But at the end of the day, design thinking can help you understand your problems better so that you can simplify them more. I want you guys to think a little bit more about how you can start empathizing and reframing. Bring humanity back to work, and remember that it's real people that we're producing services for. Bring humanity back to work. And think about, what do you do? Who is it for? And what's the one thing you're going to do tomorrow to empathize and reframe? Thank you.